Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Versatile Training Academy podcast. Excited to bring you guys episode number 1 of the podcast. This is definitely a project I've been wanting to do for a little bit as we've been building out our social media platforms on our Instagram, our Facebook, and also on our YouTube with our YouTube videos and our YouTube shorts. Excited to bring this one with you guys too, because now we will actually have video. We'll be able to upload more content to the YouTube channel and be able to expand out more on the courses we're putting out or the shorts we're talking about. I'm a big believer in education and wanting to kind of always push the needle forward. So I think this medium right here is going to be a great way for us to expand on topics that we're already talking about, or be able to dive in a little more detail or a little bit more behind the scenes of the courses we're putting up to be able to answer some of the questions that we're getting. So first off, my name is Devin Young. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I've worked in the Division I sector, I've worked in the D3 sector, and now I've kind of had this idea of kind of creating this company to basically help educate those who want to know more about how to take care of their bodies, how to train, how to prepare themselves for sport or activities, and kind of take the 7+ years of experience I have working with high-level college athletes, working with a wide variety of clients, and how did I then establish giving this information to the masses in a way that is easy to digestible and also simple enough that anyone who either has an exercise science background or is just a weekend warrior, or hey, this might be your first time ever really doing some physical activity or working out in a gym, can take these ideas and concepts that I'll talk about and I'll have other people on talking about and put them right into play with their training. So for today, one of our big concepts that we're going to talk about is a warm-up, structuring our warm-up. How do we build a warm-up that is appropriate for what we're doing? Because how we do a warm-up for a weight room session versus pre-competition versus, as I'm going to call it, field or conditioning work, whether you're going on a bike ride, you're going to hit the track, are going to have similar concepts and similar pieces to each other, but are also going to be very different in, again, what they're going to do and how they're going to be done. So if you look on our YouTube channel, we have our mini course already set up on warm-up and kind of goes into a nice little detail. It's more of a slide presentation of why we do certain warm-ups, different ways that you can add warm-ups, and it's a great, I think it's 22-minute video on how you guys can build out your own warm-ups. But I just want to dive into a little more detail of kind of how I've come to these ideas and how I've adapted this to my field work versus my weight room work versus how I do my recreational activities if I'm playing sport or just even doing something as simple as going on a bike ride. I've gotten to a little bit older of an age where hey, gotta kind of get my body ready. I can't just hop on a bike and expect to go 30 miles and feel great. So the first part of the warm-up is going to be looking at what are we doing, right? So for this example, we are going to be in a weight room session. Okay, we're going to be in a weight room. What are we doing? Is it a lower body day? Is it an upper body day? Is it a total body day? Is it our first day ever in a weight room? Is it our second phase of training? All these things have to come into play, and I don't think they're talked about enough in terms of a warm-up, right? We just think warm-up, oh, I'm going to go sit in the sauna when I get to the gym, or, well, let me go on the treadmill for 5 or 6 minutes and walk around. That is, part of that is piece to the warm-up, walking on the treadmill. I do not recommend just going to sit in a sauna for your warm-up. But these pieces are going to add to the warm-up, right? They're going to add to what we need to do. So the first and foremost thing of the warm-up is our thermal, right? We want to actually get the body warm. And that could be hopping on a stationary bike, hopping on the treadmill. I also have done dynamic drills. I've done jumping jacks. If you look in our recent short about the warm-up, you'll see in the first line thermal, I think we go 20 seconds of jumping jacks, 20 seconds of cross jacks, 20 seconds of high knees, 20 seconds of butt kicks, and then there might be another one where we're going, say, 20 seconds of mountain climbers. I think I said minutes, but we're going seconds on all that if I didn't already. But going 20 seconds on all this stuff, it's going to only accumulate to maybe a minute and a half, right? But that constant movement, that constant going is going to start to get the blood flowing. It's going to start getting our body internal temperatures warmer, right? So it's going to start making our body a little more pliable. That thermal, a minute and a half, 2 minutes, might be all you really need to start really breaking a sweat and kind of get that body going through that warm-up. As we go and progress through going through maybe our phase 1 of training to our phase 2 of training, we will then build out more areas of training. We're going to build out that warm-up too. We can't be stuck with the same warm-up that we're constantly doing and expect to get the same results. I think this is a big piece of warm-ups, is that everyone kind of has their favorite warm-up or how they like to warm up, and that really never changes for some people, especially for like our recreational athletes or our recreational, like say lifters. You have your system and you go with it, but as you are progressing in the weight room, like what used to get you warm or get you hot and sweaty in a minute and a half is not going to do the same thing 3 weeks down the road, 6 weeks down the road, or even a couple months into training. Your body has adapted to that warm-up. It's no longer going to create the same stimulus that we're looking for. So the thermal part of our warm-up and our whole warm-up together needs to evolve. It needs to grow with our training. And that's why I kind of like the system we have in place, because I think it's an easy plug and play of either increasing exercises, increasing time domains, increasing reps. It allows us to be very flexible and fluid, so that way we can build this warm-up from our phase 1 to our phase 2 to our phase 3 to our phase 4. So thermal's our first piece. Our second piece is going to be our mobility, right? So mobility, we are looking at joint capsules when I'm talking about this. So if it's a lower body session for today, we are going to be looking at dorsiflexion. We're going to be looking at hip internal and external rotation. We are going to look at our spine. Is it moving and grooving in the right ways that it should, or are we very stuck and junky? Again, we can start off super simple. We might be doing 6 ankle rocks each side, basically keeping our big toe, pinky, and heel in the ground as we're forcing our knee over our toe, creating this dorsiflexion to create a smaller angle from the top of our foot from our shin. Feeling a stretch to the back of our calf will happen, so it technically does have a little bit of flexibility piece into it that we can talk about later, but we're looking at that mobility. Next, we might go into our 90-90 hip rotations. Now we're looking at internal, external rotation of the hip joint, making sure that we're smooth and we're gliding that mobility, right? There's going to be times where, hey, the 90-90 is going to feel very gross in our hips. It's going to feel not great. As we progress through these, you'll start to notice that that mobility, that range of motion has become even easier. The third piece of our warm-up is our activation. So here we're looking at muscles and making sure that they are primed and ready to go. So for this is a great opportunity to whip out mini bands and do some kind of clamshells, maybe banded glute bridges. If it's an upper body day, we might throw a band around our back, do some banded push-ups if we're doing a horizontal push for the day, band pull-aparts. The idea is you can get as creative or with this as you want, but the system is in place so that way you can plug and play based on what you're doing for the day. I'm going to be definitely doing some maybe monster walks forward and backwards, even lateral, with some banded glute bridges on my lower body day. I necessarily might not be doing those if I am doing a truly upper body day for these movements. And finally, that fourth piece of our warm-up is our prime, and this is what I like to call like the final piece. This is that ramping ourselves up. This is the right outside the tunnel football game. People are screaming, smacking each other on the head, really trying to get our body ready to go, getting that CNS lit up so that way we can go attack our workout. And for this, it could be as simple as in the drill that we do that's 2 inches runs. Basically, we get into our tippy toes, we snap down to the ground, and then basically only picking our feet about 2 inches off the ground in a running motion, quick, fast, 5-6 seconds. Really high pace, really intense. That's going to get that CNS going so that way we are then ready to go, especially if we're moving into, say, a total body lift day and we are going to be adding some plyometrics in, we're doing some med ball throws, or we are doing any kind of Olympic lifting. It's really going to help that our CNS is already primed and firing at a high rate before we get into those movements. So for those 4 categories, thermal, mobility, activation, and prime, that is our big categories. And then from there, exercises and the modalities you choose to use are really plug and play. Do you have space? Do you not have space? All right, I don't have space, so maybe my warm up is going to be more of an in place, right? I'm going to be going through my mobility in a 4 by foot area. Oh, I'm at a track. I have tons of space, or I'm on a football field. I can see I have 10, 15 yards of space. Well, now maybe I'm moving that thermal into more of a dynamic piece. I'm going down with my knee hugs. I'm going back with my ankle grabs. I'm going down with a lunge. That way to warm myself up is now becoming a moving piece because I have the space for it. And the reason I created this system, I'm not even going to call it a system, why I created and adopted this philosophy behind warm-ups is because at different schools I was at or different people I'm working with, I might not have space. I might have tons of space. Also, I think it allows for the coach to be creative in creating your warm-ups. I've been told by athletes all the time, like, what's the worst part about practice? What's the worst part about lift? It's always the warm-up. And just because I think they say that, it's because it becomes so monotonous that we're doing the same 5 or 6 exercises. From the time they got there from a freshman to a senior, the warm-up hasn't changed. Like, they've made so much progress in the gym. They've gotten stronger. They've gotten more powerful. They've achieve different levels and achieve different KPIs that we set out for them, but how they start their session has been exactly the same. So for this now, I can periodize my warm-up just like I do my workouts. I can start with a very low level, a very basic, and week by week we can accumulate more volume. So not only is my warm-up changing, my warm-up is growing with my program. If we're in an accumulation phase block of training, my warm-up is going to do just that. It is going to accumulate more exercises, more reps. We're going to start with either 4s, 6s, 8s, 10s, or however the rep scheme you want to do it that you find appropriate. And we're going to keep building onto that week from week to week. We move into a power phase. Well, my activation and my prime might be a little bit more complex, or it might have a little bit more overall total volume because I'm really trying to get the body ready to start producing more power or being ready to express its power it already has sooner than waiting till 3-4 sets into a power clean before my athletes or clients are really like, wow, I'm feeling great, I'm feeling snappy. This is how this exercise should feel. No, it's from that first warm-up, boom, we're feeling powerful, we're putting force into the ground. Another thing with the warm-up, besides athletes saying it's boring, the warm-up starts your workout, right? If you are not excited to do your warm-up, it kind of is easy to derail us from wanting to go work out. You're like, all right, I got to go work out. I'm going to the gym at 3. I really don't want to go on the treadmill for 8 minutes before warming up. So you take that out, and then it takes you longer for your body to actually physically get ready to work out. So now you're maybe a whole exercise down, a whole block of exercises down before you really feel good, and now the ball's rolling, everything's moving as it should. The warm-up takes place so that way the rest of the workout flows smoothly. I've never been at a school or worked with a client who, if we didn't have a well-structured and a well-thought-out warm-up that has a purpose, that didn't have a great workout. It was always if team came in late, we had to trim something. What's the first thing that trims? Team comes in right off of the field. All right, we're already 30 minutes late, guys, girls, get right to the workout and let's go. Where, yes, they just came from practice. They might have had that thermal real good, but maybe they were sitting, or they were in a position that was not optimal for that day. So if we're squatting that day and they were sitting, they were tight, hip flexors aren't warmed up, hips aren't feeling great, that squat session is going to be very compromised versus if we took that 5 minutes to maybe hit that mobility, hit that activation, and then moved into our warm-up. It sounds so simple, and it sounds so like, yeah, we get it, you need to warm up, but I really want you guys to start thinking about, like, how do you warm up yourselves? How do you prepare yourself for activities, right? If you're a rec league player, like what are you really doing to get yourself ready? Like, do you have a thermal piece in there? Do you have a mobility piece? Do you have an activation? Is there a prime where you're really trying to get that CNS going before you're going to go play pickup basketball? I guarantee you, if you just take some of these pieces and just start plugging in some exercises, you will notice a huge difference in how you start playing games, how you feel on runs, and definitely how you feel in the weight room. So guys, this is going to be kind of our short little first episode. Again, wanted to dive in a little bit more into warm-ups. I appreciate everyone who stuck around and listened. Feel free on the YouTube channel, leave us a comment, find us on Instagram, find us on YouTube, come to our Facebook page, like leave us comments, leave us questions, like anything you guys want to know about how to structure a warm-up a little bit better. If there's a piece I discussed in this podcast that you're a little bit unsure about or want more information about, please feel free, like leave us a comment, find a way to reach out to us through our social media pages, and I'll get back to you guys, whether that's a comment or on a separate video or a separate podcast. So until then, guys, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.